While Goku is in the healing pod, Vegeta goes and finds armor that would fit Gohan, Krillin, and Kale. However, Kale is reluctant to wear it, as it is essentially the same as the armor of the people who killed her friends and what was essentially her family. She's eventually convinced to wear it, as the armor could be useful in protecting against Frieza's attacks, and they need all the help they can get to face Frieza. Shortly afterwards, Krillin takes off to the Grand Elders since they needed the password for the Dragon Balls. Meanwhile, Frieza was still fighting with Nail, but he was just using one arm to fight him. The Nail was beaten into the ground. He still told Frieza he was too late, as Dende and Sala would have reached the Earthlings by now and gave them the incantation. Instead of finishing off Nail, Frieza takes off in his rage to stop the Earthlings from wishing on the Dragon Balls. Anyway, while Krillin is flying towards the Grand Elder, he meets up with Dende and Sala, and then heads back with them. By the time they return, Vegeta has fallen asleep, so Gohan, Krillin, Kale, Sala, and Dende quietly get the Dragon Balls and head far away from Vegeta. As Dende summons Purunga, Krillin notices that Frieza is on his way, so Dende tells him to hurry up and make his wishes before Frieza or Vegeta arrives. Before they state their wish, Piccolo speaks to them telepathically through King Kai, telling them to use their first wish to revive Piccolo, so that colony is revived too. He then tells them to use their second wish to bring him to Namek, since he wants to fight Frieza and avenge his people. After Dende made the first wish, Vegeta woke up and noticed the dragon, and after the second wish was made, Vegeta arrived at where Dende and the heroes were. Vegeta then demands him to wish him to be immortal, so that they could stand a chance against Frieza. When Krillin tells Dende to do it, he goes to, but the dragon disappears, and the Dragon Balls turn to stone before he could. This saddens Dende, Sala, and Kale, as they realize it means that Guru has passed away. Since Vegeta couldn't get his wish, he turned on Krillin to attack him, which is when he notices Frieza behind them. Of course, Frieza was angry that he can't get his wish, so he charges up his power to get ready to fight them. Meanwhile, while Piccolo is on the way to them, he notices a faint key and lands by it, which turns out to be Nail. The Nail convinces Piccolo to allow him to assimilate with Piccolo, which increases his power drastically, as he then took off towards the heroes. Back with the heroes, Vegeta starts to fight with Frieza, and as Frieza tries to use his scouter to read his power, it shatters. Though, after fighting for a little bit, Vegeta goads Frieza into transforming, as he reveals Zarbon told him that Frieza can transform. During the time they were sparring, since Kale was still damaged, he healed her since Frieza was distracted and couldn't stop him. After she was healed, because of her Saiyan nature, her power would increase from this. Assuming she gets a similar Zenkai to Vegeta after the fight with Ginyu, which is roughly an 8 times multiplier, her power goes from 28,000 to 200,000, or about 2,200,000 when enraged. Anyway, back with Frieza, he complies as he gets ready to transform, as he blows off his battle jacket. Then as he begins to charge up his ki, he gets far larger and his horns grow as well, as he turns into his second form. As Frieza then sends a shockwave to blow them away, it's Kale who catches Dende this time instead of Krillin, since she was nearby him. And Frieza decides to attack Krillin first, as he flies at him and stabs him through the stomach with one of his horns. Frieza then throws him off his horn and into the water. Gohan goes to try and save him, but Frieza gets in his way. However, Gohan gets enraged and starts to beat Frieza down, eventually knocking him away, while Dende and Kale save Krillin from the water. Then as Frieza gets back up, he starts to charge up again, which raises his power even higher. He then easily knocks Gohan to the ground, and while he is facing away from Vegeta, the Saiyan Prince tries to blast him, though he comes out unscathed, and he then lands in front of Gohan. Gohan tries to attack him, but all his punches miss, as Frieza then starts to knock him around. And as he starts to stomp Gohan's head into the ground, he just barely notices the destructive disc coming at him, so when he jumps out of the way, part of his tail is cut off. Krillin then sends many of these energy discs at Frieza, though he manages to dodge them all. Then when Frieza approaches him, Krillin blinds the tyrant with the solar flare so that Vegeta could attack Frieza, though Vegeta was distracted with wondering how Kale and Krillin were healed, as he then spots Dende healing Gohan, so Vegeta tries to accuse Krillin of hiding this from him. Since Vegeta wasn't attacking, Krillin would have tried to get Kale to attack Frieza, but with her having seen the others get beat down by Frieza, she would be thinking she is worthless again, so she would be too scared to try and attack Frieza, which would leave only Sala to attack. Sala would try to blast Frieza for Krillin, but she isn't that strong, so this doesn't do much for the Galactic Emperor. When the effect of the solar flare wears off, Frieza would turn on Sala and easily start to pummel her. This might start to enrage Kale, but she doesn't step in, as Sala is knocked to the ground, so she can no longer fight. Anyway, with Gohan now healed, his power has raised, but as he tries to confront Frieza, Piccolo arrives on the battlefield. As he goes to take on Frieza, he has Dende and the other heroes take cover. As they take cover, Dende heals Sala, which would have raised her power from 42,000 to 420,000. I wanted to give her a similar boost to Vegeta's after being beaten by the Ginyu Force, but since it was Frieza that beat her down, I made it a 10 times boost instead of 8 times. Anyway, Piccolo then starts pummeling Frieza, and even though Frieza manages to get some hits in, Piccolo is unscathed and manages to send Frieza's blast back at him. This managed to damage Frieza a little, so he decides to get serious and starts to pummel Piccolo, though he decides to get serious as well, as he then takes off his weighted clothing. Frieza then reveals he has 2 more transformations, as he starts to transform again, with spikes growing from his back, him gaining shoulder pads, and his head changing shape as he turns into his third form. In this form, he would be relentlessly blasting Piccolo with his death beams, so Gohan then rushes in, and Krillin tries to follow him, but Vegeta stops him. When Gohan gets close, he knocks Frieza away and uses his Masenko against him, though Frieza eventually can knock it back, but Piccolo knocks it away too, so it doesn't hit Gohan. Then as Frieza begins to turn into his final form, Vegeta pressures Krillin to beat him to near death, so Krillin blasts him through the chest. As Gohan escapes with Piccolo, Dende refuses to heal Vegeta, and he goes over and heals Piccolo instead. The Frieza notices this, but he then finishes his transformation into his fourth form, as Gohan has Dende go over and heal Vegeta, and after he is healed, he kicks Dende out of the way, while the smoke clears to reveal a smaller and less terrifying looking Frieza. Though, Frieza then uses a death beam to take out Dende, so that they can no longer be healed. This, of course, would sadden Sola, but would further start to enrage Kale, though she is still staying on the sidelines as she was doubting her own abilities. As Frieza then appears in front of them, Piccolo, Krillin, Gohan, and Sola all try to attack him, though it is to no avail. He eventually appears behind them, and Vegeta warns them, though as he goes to blast Gohan, Vegeta kicks him out of the way. Though as they realize Vegeta's power has raised, he tries to fight Frieza, but none of his attacks land. When he tries to blast Frieza, he easily sends it back at him, which just sends Vegeta into a state of despair as he felt terror for the first time, which led to him beginning to cry. However, Frieza then easily pummels the Saiyan Prince, but before he can finish him off, Goku arrives. As Frieza tries to attack him, Goku easily lands some hits on him and deflects Frieza's blasts. However, as Vegeta tries to tell Frieza that this is the person he feared, and that Goku is a Super Saiyan of legend, Frieza blasts Vegeta through the chest. Before he dies, he tells Goku about Frieza destroying Planet Vegeta out of the fear that the Super Saiyan would defeat him, so he begs Goku to kill Frieza, and he passes away. Goku then buries Vegeta as Piccolo tells the others to leave with him, so they don't get in the way, so they all take off. As Goku and Frieza start the battle, Goku is eventually kicked underwater, which is when he realizes Frieza can't sense ki, so he tricks him with some blasts, and eventually attacks Frieza from behind. As they then go back to fighting on land, Frieza sends boulders flying at Goku, and even though he dodges them, Frieza manages to blast him into the ground. However, he then appears behind Piccolo and the others before flying back into the battlefield, as they then return to the ground to fight. Before they fight, Goku rips off his overshirt, as Frieza says he won't use his hands in their fight, so he and Goku begin to go blow for blow. But when he bites Frieza's tail, this enrages Frieza enough to resort to punching Goku away from him, and since the tyrant was getting bored, he offers Goku to join him, but, of course, he refuses. So, Frieza then powers up more and starts to knock Goku around, which leads to Goku eventually using the Kaioken. This doesn't help much, so he must push it to using the Kaioken times 10. Then when Frieza uses half of his power, Goku resorts to using the Kaioken times 20. This allows Goku to at least be even with a tyrant at half power, as he tries to use the Kamehameha. Frieza sends his own blast back, and since they were around evenly powered at this point, they cancel each other out. Which, as the smoke clears, Goku was shocked to see that Frieza wasn't affected by his assault at all. As Goku stops using the Kaioken, Frieza begins his own assault against Goku. However, when Goku gets a chance to catch his breath, he starts to gather energy from Namek and the other nearby planets for the Spirit Bomb. Frieza then starts beating down Goku again, while Piccolo has Krillin, Gohan, and Sola give him some of their remaining ki. Frieza eventually notices the Spirit Bomb, as Piccolo has them stop and keep some energy for themselves. And before Frieza can finish off Goku, Piccolo charges in and knocks Frieza away, so that Goku will have time to finish the Spirit Bomb. Krillin, Gohan, and Sola also fire blasts at Frieza with the little ki they have left, though Kale is still shaking in fear on the sidelines. And as Frieza tried to charge a Death Ball, Goku finishes the Spirit Bomb and sends it at Frieza, which the Tyrant tries to push it back. It collides into the planet and causes some damage to it, and Frieza was seemingly defeated, so Krillin and Gohan climb out of the water. The next ones to climb out are Kale and Sola. They were briefly worried that Piccolo and Goku were caught in the crossfire of the blast, but shortly after, Piccolo was seen pulling Goku out of the water too. They then begin to talk and plan to go home, as they briefly celebrate defeating Frieza. But while celebrating, Piccolo mentions something about hoping the Grand Elder can rest in peace, which Kale by this time would have picked up on Nail's ki disappearing, and with Piccolo knowing stuff he shouldn't, she would question him about Nail, which is when Piccolo reveals to the rest of them what happened with Nail and how they assimilated. Nail being gone would somewhat sadden Kale, though she's at least happy he's still partially alive within Piccolo. However, while they are discussing this, Krillin goes oddly silent as he spots a wet and damaged Frieza standing up on a ledge, which he then quickly blasts Piccolo through the chest with a death beam, seemingly killing him. Goku then tries to tell the others to run, but this is when Kale's anger would finally get the best of her. Not only did the people she was closest to like Mori, the Grand Elder Guru, and Dende die, but Nail had basically just died as well. Shortly after, she found out he was still around somewhat, so it was like getting a little bit of brief hope to have it torn all away. Though, Sala would have been angered and saddened by this too, but not to the extent of anger as Kale. Regardless, since she snapped into a fit of anger, Kale would rush at Frieza, Sala following suit as well. Something to point out is that Kale's power would have finished rising from the potential unlocked from Guru earlier, as Gohan and Krillin's power continued to rise more from it as time went on. When Krillin's power finished rising from Guru unlocking his potential, it went from 13,000 to 75,000, which is about a 6 times increase. I gave her a slightly smaller multiplier than this though, so when Kale's power finished rising, with a 5 times multiplier it would go from 200,000 up to 1 million, or 11 million when enraged. Since Kale is enraged, she would be using her full power level of 11 million. So with Sala's power of 420,000 there too, they have a combined power of 11,420,000. Though, since Frieza at half power has a power level of 60 million, they wouldn't be doing much to the tyrant. This would have caught him off guard though, as he didn't expect this fearful little weakling to have this much power hidden deep within her. So, while he is caught off guard, the mother-daughter duo would be knocking the Emperor around. Eventually, he would be able to gain his bearings though, as he then starts to easily dodge their attacks. Which, of course, he would get bored of this after a while and would start to pummel them in return. Frieza being who he is, after seeing that Kale gets stronger with anger and her friends or family being harmed fuel their anger, he would want to target Sala first. Though, to do that, he would knock Kale around the most to the point she couldn't get back up. Afterwards, the tyrant would start to knock Sala around like he was with Vegeta earlier, when it ends with him going to finish her off by stabbing her through the chest with his arm. He isn't interrupted this time, so Sala falls to the ground, with her final words to Kale being to let her anger go. That in cases like this, it is fine to fight, as it would be avenging her friends and family, along with protecting the planet and nature she loves from being destroyed, which, after Sala finishes saying this, she passes away. Since Kale is just shaking and yelling in anger currently, Frieza figures nothing is going to happen, so he walks over to her and begins to charge a blast above her, which this blast sends her down into the dark depths of the ocean on Namek. However, a green energy begins to surround Kale, as she yells even more in anger. The ocean waters start to get choppy and rough, before swirling like a whirlpool, with her standing in the center of it. As she lets out another yell of rage and rises into the sky, she charges at Frieza and punches him in the jaw. She has unlocked her raffle state, which her power level will now be 10 million, or 110 million while enraged, which she is. So this brings her above Frieza's 50% power of 60 million, so she is pummeling the tyrant into the ground. She eventually punches Frieza through an island and follows him through it, and she continues to knock him around. Even when the tyrant tries to use his speed to appear behind Kale and catch her by surprise, this doesn't last long, as she knocks him into yet another island. Meanwhile, for the heroes watching this, they would have no idea what kind of state Kale transformed into. However, Goku might realize it is similar in power to the Great Ape form, so he might theorize that she somehow harnessed the power of it in her base form. Anyway, when she tries to use a massive punch, Frieza just barely manages to grab her wrist and throw her into the ground, though she eventually gets back up and knocks Frieza into the ground, before trying to stomp him into it, but he manages to roll out of the way. Then when the tyrant tries to use a blast against her, she easily crushes it in her hand. She then grabs his ankle and throws him around into the ground, before grabbing him by the face. This is when she drags his face through an island wall, which grounds the tyrant to the point he can't move at first. Though she then screams in rage again, she's getting impatient with Frieza not getting back up. However, as Frieza has a brief break, he finally taps into his full power of 120 million, which puts him above Kale, though they are still close in power. Since Frieza would have the advantage now, he starts to slam Kale around and toy with her like she was with him, though in the back of his mind, he was also worried about her being the Super Saiyan legend Vegeta spoke about. Since he also seen her power continuously grow, he doesn't waste time toying with her. After pummeling her around and throwing her into the ground, he walks over, which is when she throws a desperate punch at him. He catches her fist though, and with his other hand he charges a death beam and aims it at her. Since the other heroes don't have the power to intervene, he shoots her through the head with it, killing her like he was going to do to Goku earlier before Piccolo intervened. Frieza, with his cockiness of seemingly defeating the Super Saiyan, then decides to take out the next fighter, as he believes he just took out the strongest of them. Though, since he also believes he took out their strongest fighter just now, he drops out of his full power form to conserve energy. Regardless, the tyrant lifts Krillin into the air and uses a death psycho bomb to cause Krillin to explode, thus killing him. This, of course, angers Goku to the point the ground starts shaking around him. As lightning flashes around him too, his hair goes between black and yellow, though it eventually turns to solid yellow, with him becoming a Super Saiyan for the first time. He then tells Gohan to take the barely alive Piccolo and leave while he still has control over himself. As Gohan leaves, Frieza tries to blast him, but Goku gets in the way and almost crushes his hand. He then starts knocking Frieza around, and he manages to survive the Emperor's barrage of blasts unscathed. Goku then continues his assault on Frieza, but when he tries to use the barrage of death beams, Goku dodges them all. He then takes one of the death beams head on to show Frieza he is powerless, and Frieza asks what he is. He says he is the Super Saiyan. Meanwhile, Gohan returns to the ship and puts Piccolo inside, before leaving to go get Bulma. Back with Goku, he tries to use a Kamehameha, but Frieza then charges a Death Ball and throws it at the planet, which starts to ravage Namek, but it hasn't destroyed the planet instantly like Frieza planned it to. Meanwhile, Kami then talks to King Kai, telling him that he is having Mr. Popo gather the Dragon Balls. Regardless, Frieza then blasts Goku away, which destroys more of Goku's shirt, as Frieza taps it to his 100% power again. In the meantime, Gohan manages to find Bulma on the crumbling island, and tells her that he'll explain everything later. Back with Kami again, he talks with King Kai to tell him that Mr. Popo has collected all the Dragon Balls. So, King Kai tells Kami to use the Dragon Balls to change the wish to restore life to those who were killed by Frieza and his men, so that they can then use the Namekian Dragon Balls to bring everyone except Frieza to Earth. Back on Namek, Frieza and Goku continue to go blow for blow with each other, though Frieza eventually charges at Goku while he charges a Kamehameha. Frieza manages to charge through his Kamehameha and hit Goku down into the water, while on Earth, Mr. Popo makes a wish to Shenron. So, the sky darkens on Namek as everyone is revived, which brought back the Grand Elder and Purunga along with him. As Frieza was getting ready to leave the planet, as he thought it was about to blow, he sees Goku rise out of the water, though his shirt is now fully destroyed. Anyway, King Kai talks to Guru telepathically and tells him the plan with the wish. So Goku butts in and convinces them to change the wish to leave just him and Frieza on Namek. So, Guru speaks to Dende telepathically and tells him to go make the wish, which Frieza then notices the Dragonite heads there as well, but he is too late, as Dende finished making the wish when he arrived. So, with everyone on Earth besides Goku and Frieza, they begin to go blow for blow with each other again. After a bit of fighting, Goku notices Frieza's ki is dropping fast, so he quits fighting. He then drops to his base form and flies off after warning Frieza to never show himself again. However, Frieza fires a Death Saucer at him, so Goku turns Super Saiyan again as he dodges it. But Frieza eventually sends 2 more after Goku, but Goku sends up dust to the point he can't see him, so Goku knocks him into the ground. This is when Frieza is then cut in half, as he ignored Goku's warning to stay down. Goku then goes to leave, but Frieza begs for help, so Goku gives in and gives him a little energy. Back on Earth, Kale is revived in there too. She ends up having a heartfelt reunion with Mori, Guru, and Sala, but they can't waste much time, as Guru's remaining lifespan is short, so he makes Mori the next Grand Elder. Back on Namek, Goku once again flies off, and Frieza still didn't take Goku's warning to leave. Instead, he fired a blast at Goku, but Goku fires a Kamehameha back, which easily overtook the Emperor's blast and overtook the Tyrant himself, seemingly killing him. So, Goku then took off, looking for a ship to leave the crumbling planet with. However, Namek then explodes with Goku seemingly being caught in the explosion. Yamcha then talks to Bulma through King Kai, informing her and everyone else that Frieza was defeated but Goku was killed. Afterwards, the Namekians and Vegeta end up staying with Bulma, and 130 days later they summon Purunga. With the first wish, they try to summon the souls of Krillin and Goku, but it only summons Krillin's soul, since Goku is still alive. They then wish for Krillin to be brought back to life. Then when they try to wish for Goku to come there, he refused to and told Purunga that he will return on his own. So, since Tien and Shotzi wanted to be revived together, Yamcha is the one revived with the third wish. 130 days have passed again, so they summon Purunga, and Shotzi is revived with the first wish. Tien is then revived with the second wish. Finally, they use the third wish to wish the Namekians to a new planet. Before that happens, however, Mori talks with Kale about whether she should go with them or stay on Earth. Mori would likely suggest that she should stay on Earth, as she has finally formed bonds with someone that isn't a Namekian. Even if it isn't a deep bond, they would see how she improved and started to believe in herself a little more after spending time with them. So, as of right now, Kale and Sala decided to settle on Earth, as it was the best option for Kale to continue to grow and develop. After all, if she ever gets homesick or anything, she would be able to go back and visit New Namek eventually.